As a founder at the intersection of entrepreneurship and technology, here are the news headlines that caught my attention this week and reading between the lines what they mean for you. This week, we have new American drone technology in the Middle East, more tech layoffs. OnlyFans is using AI now. You can download a smart glasses detector, and the Apple Vision Pro went retro, and people love it. All that and more. Let's get into the headlines. First up, we saw robot versus robot warfare in the Middle East. The US used the low-cost Lucas attack drones during do I really have to say it? During Operation Epic Fury. These are kamikaze drones, which means once they lock onto a target, they will dive and detonate the payload rather than dropping a bomb and flying away. So these are very much single-use drones, and they're modeled after the Iranian version of this drone called the Shahad 136. The maker of these drones is an Arizona-based company called SBIR, and it cost them about $35,000 per drone to make. The drone itself is about the size of your kitchen table, and it can weigh up to 180 pounds depending on how much payload it's carrying. So my take on this is, while a lot of the attention has been on how many drones, the supply chain, where they're coming from, all of those logistics, I think that this news will bring more attention to interceptor technology. So for the Iranian Shahad 136 drones, they're using an interceptor made by Ukraine, and it costs about $2,500. So far, it seems pretty effective. They're relatively slow moving and relatively cheap to shoot out of the sky, at least compared to something like a nuclear intercontinental ballistic missile. An ICBM goes 24,000 kilometers per hour, or Mach 23, which is 23 times the speed of sound. Most of these missiles themselves are about 5.5 feet in diameter. The part that we can pick up on a radar is about the size of a golf ball, maybe the size of a marble. So that is a much bigger threat with a much smaller target. And there is fierce debate within the defense community as to whether the US has demonstrated that we can actually shoot something like that out of the sky. I will link a video below that goes into this in more detail. Also, while we collectively process what has happened with Iran, what is happening, don't forget that we haven't gotten all of the Epstein files yet. Moving on, Block plans to lay off half of its staff in a deliberate and bold embrace of AI. We can't go a single week without some tech layoff news, it seems. Block is the parent company that owns different payment processing platforms like Square and Cash App. It's helmed by Jack Dorsey, who was one of the co-founders of Twitter. And last week, they announced that they are laying off 40% of their staff, or about 4,400 people. All because, as a company, they were able to embrace AI, allegedly. The market actually responded with Block share prices jumping 20%, which, if you've never looked at how markets respond to layoff news, was actually kind of surprising. But if you read between the lines, and especially read between the lines of their stock prices over the last 5-6 years, I am not buying blindly that this move was entirely motivated by an embrace of AI. Block's share prices have been way down since around 2022, so Jack needed to do something. But at the end of the day, whether the cause is because of AI automation, or a correction to overhiring post-pandemic, or just failure to stay competitive, the outcome is the same. Thousands of qualified, accomplished, driven employees are now out of work. And as we've talked about before, with these layoffs, we are seeing more and more people opt not to go back to a 9-to-5 and instead try freelancing, consulting, or starting their own business. Not because being an employee is bad, but because there is increasing uncertainty around what it means to even have a 9-to-5 job. And as a founder, I'd much rather be having the conversation of how do we take those 40%, those 4,400 employees, and use that talent differently to grow top line, rather than what can we do right now with fewer employees. And I don't know that they didn't have those conversations. I'm just saying those are the conversations I would rather be having. Moving on, then we have how AI-generated videos are distorting your children's YouTube feed. If you have kids, or if you just really like watching kids' YouTube, won't judge you too hard, you may have noticed a virtual tsunami of meaningless, plotless, often contradictory AI-generated video that is all geared towards children and capturing their attention. They look harmless on the outset, but then after you start watching a bit, you realize they are weird, distorted, filled with questionable IP infringement, often age inappropriate, and really confusing if you're a child. There is just something disturbing about these clips. People are profiting from these videos, and they're profiting a lot because you can make so many with so little effort. My take on this is that the researchers are out there trying to quantify, qualify how bad these videos are for children, what kind of negative impact they have. And while I don't think anyone will be surprised when the results of these studies likely find that, yeah, these are bad for kids, I do think common sense alone should maybe be enough to put some guardrails on this content. And yes, you can go to the YouTube Kids app, but that doesn't stop approved channels from uploading AI-generated content and it slipping through. I understand the platform has limited levers it can pull to moderate this kind of content, who it's for, who sees it. As someone who generates a lot of creative intellectual property, I don't think these videos should be monetizable by default. I think you should have to prove that either you own the IP that is in the AI-generated content, or you are significantly transforming the AI-generated content into something truly new and novel. I do think monetization in this sense should be the exception to the rule, not the default setting, at least until we figure out how we can moderate this a little bit better. Now, if you are a US taxpayer, you're going to want to listen to this next story. The headline is, "We have an SBIR reauthorization update." The US government spends about $4 billion a year of your dollars on a program just for US businesses called SBIR. This program gives small businesses and startups equity-free funding so that they don't need to go to investors and give away ownership in their company, and can go on to build technology that benefits the American economy. Roomba, Qualcomm, 23andMe all had their starts in the SBIR program. Now, last October, the program expired, as it does every 3 years, and Congress needed to reauthorize it. But the renewal stalled because people have been unhappy about certain companies winning too many SBIR contracts and not actually producing any usable innovation or technology. Not to mention, many of these same companies that win lots and lots of SBIR contracts likely use those American SBIR dollars to fund development overseas. Now, the companies that do this are called cyber mills. And let me read you some of the statistics from the worst offenders. So we have Intelligent Automation. They have stats like $362 million in defense SBIR contracts in just a 6-year period. Then we have Physical Sciences. That's a company that has received 1,728 SBIR and STTR awards worth $650 million since 1983. So my take on this, and my company has won SBIR awards. It's how we were able to start up and get to where we are today, where we are publishing applications and launching new apps and doing all of that fun stuff. My take on this is that the program lapsed because it did in fact need change. But looking at what changes have actually made it through in this reauthorization update, that was not worth shutting the program down for 6 months. Nothing has really materially changed. There's nothing in place to prevent these companies from winning just an outrageous amount of awards, spending taxpayer dollars on research that is never going to bring a product to market, and potentially letting other countries benefit from American intellectual property before America and the American people have a chance to benefit from it. And I think that would be fair to say of any country and their innovation program. If your people are paying for the research, for the innovation, you want your people to benefit from it first. So I don't feel like we're asking too much here. The new bill is leaving it up to the individual agencies to decide how many SBIR awards is too many, which is exactly how we ended up with companies like Physical Sciences winning 1,700 100 awards. Under an administration that is so vocally anti-fraud, this is not the anti-fraud version of that bill. Sharp left. As an appreciation for sitting through that rant on taxpayer dollars, we're now going to talk about OnlyFans. The headline reads, OnlyFans added computer vision AI search to find your crush's bop doppelganger. Some context as to why this is tech news. So Presearch, a decentralized privacy-focused search engine that rewards users for searching with cryptocurrency tokens, self-described as, let me read this to you, the alternative to Google built for privacy freedom and more meaningful discovery, launched a feature called Doppelganger. With Doppelganger, users can drag and drop upload a picture of anybody. It could be a celebrity, an influencer, if you happen to have a photo of your crush, whoever, and it will find people who look similar or have a similar vibe, their words, not mine, on adult content sites, and they specifically call out OnlyFans. Now, according to an interview with Wired, organic search on OnlyFans is deliberately kind of bad, making discoverability difficult. And OnlyFans isn't the only website that has this problem. If you're an avid podcast listener, you'll know that podcast discoverability is also very poor. Or if you're a reader of email newsletters like Substack, it is really hard to find the content you want to find on those sites as well. And tools like this one are there to help a creator out. Now, computer vision is an older type of AI. It's been around for a while. It's a little more developed than a lot of the LLMs that you would use every day. And what caught my attention about this one was how people reacted to this news story. It very solidly put everyone in one of two camps, which seems to be a recurring phenomena with AI. Which is, camp one, you have the people that know nothing about it, have no idea what utility it has, or maybe tried it once but didn't really like it. Or you're someone who can write a treaty on the benefits and risks of a single Claude update. There kind of is no in between. And for those that fall into the first camp, this story really illustrates that there is no industry that is safe from AI. It has come for the oldest profession, and there is no slice of life that AI won't be involved in unless you deliberately exclude it. And my big question with this story is, how did dating apps not come up with this feature first? And why aren't matchmakers using this? Speaking of deliberately excluding technology, we're going to move on to the next headline, which is, this app warns you if someone nearby is wearing smart glasses, and I hate that it makes sense. So called Nearby Glasses, this open source Android app is able to notify you when someone nearby is wearing camera-enabled smart glasses. You can download it from the Play Store or from GitHub, and it's pretty understandable that you would want to be able to detect glasses in certain contexts, like at school, in a public restroom, in the bedroom, at your Airbnb. The app works by looking for the pairing request that's sent by the smart glasses when it's looking for your phone. You might have seen this on your Bluetooth list. It will say something like Meta Ray-Bans followed by a unique identifier number. Now, I will note that if the manufacturers decide that they don't like this, they can work around it by randomizing the Bluetooth signal. As we see the pendulum swing from chronically online to this luxury of being able to be offline and intentionally offline, I think we will start to see things like this proliferate as a feature, but outside of tech. Let me explain. So for those of the tinfoil hat persuasion, you're probably familiar with a Faraday cage or a Faraday box. In the military, they have this thing called a sensitive compartmented information facility, SCIF or SCIF. These are areas where radio signals and electromagnetic signals are blocked unless you deliberately let them in. Now, you can make a Faraday box at home with tinfoil from your pantry, but I think we're going to start seeing this kind of thing at scale. I could see there being, schools, restaurants, movie theaters, concert venues that will block these signals as a desirable feature, because if it becomes socially desirable, it will become infrastructure. You might even see housing listings on Zillow where one of the selling features is that the primary bedroom has been skipped. And then finally, we have Retrocade on the Apple Vision Pro scratches a nostalgia itch. So the company Retrocade launched a virtual arcade on the Apple Vision Pro, and according to Upload VR, it is the best Vision OS listing yet. It comes with 10 titles, including Space Invaders, Asteroids, Pac-Man, and Centipede. When you drop into the experience, you see the games on these consoles or cabinets, just like you would in a real arcade. You can't play with your hands. You do have to use a Bluetooth controller, like the PlayStation DualShock. And I think this worked so well because it's nostalgic and it's just a game. There's no productivity angle to it. There's no, this makes your work better. It's just entertainment. And it captures what Ernest Cline really kickstarted with Ready Player One that brought so many people to XR in the first place. And I will say the graphics for it look amazing. There's a screenshot of it in mixed reality mode where you have the cabinet just sitting in a living room. And I thought it was a real picture where someone just happened to have an Atari in their living room. That's a hologram. It's not real. Apple is not the first ones to try this. The Oculus Go had an arcade app that was of kind of a similar vibe, but it has since been discontinued. It does also support the theory that there are no new ideas in VR. It is just gaming and training. My name is Laura Elliott. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Dauntless XR. And if you found this news roundup interesting or insightful, please let me know by liking and subscribing to the Becoming Dauntless newsletter. It's free over on LinkedIn. I'll see you next week.